Welcome to Concrete Block, the podcast where we dive into the latest news and trends shaping our world. I'm your host, Walter, and we're glad you're joining us today. As we kick off this episode, we're taking a closer look at the complex relationship between tariffs, inflation, and economic growth. It's a topic that's been making headlines lately, with Federal Reserve Chairman Jerome Powell weighing in on the potential risks of tariff policies. But is it really that simple? Do tariffs inevitably lead to inflation, or are there other factors at play? We've got a fascinating story to share with you today, one that explores the nuances of this issue and challenges some common assumptions. It starts with a recent statement from Chairman Powell, who warned that if the Trump administration continues to impose tariffs on key imports, it could lead to inflation or even stagflation. But not everyone agrees with this assessment. A group of experts, including Timothy Nash, director of the McNair Center at Northwood University, argues that tariffs don't necessarily cause inflation. They point out that historically, inflation has been driven more by an increase in the money supply than by fiscal policy or trade regulations. In fact, they suggest that the real driver of inflation is monetary policy, not tariff policies. So, what's behind this debate? Is it a matter of economic ideology, or are there other factors at play? We'll be exploring these questions and more as we delve into the world of economics and trade policy. Now, we want to hear from you. What do you think about the relationship between tariffs and inflation? Do you agree with Chairman Powell's assessment, or do you think there are other factors that need to be considered? Share your thoughts with us on social media using the hashtag #ConcreteBlock, and we might feature them in a future episode. We'll be right back with more of today's top news on Concrete Block. Welcome back to Concrete Block. We're diving into the world of international politics now, as we explore the recent Canadian election that's been making headlines. Mark Carney, a name familiar in financial circles, has taken the reins as Prime Minister of Canada, following a campaign that was significantly influenced by the presence and policies of U.S. President Donald Trump. To understand the context of this election, it's essential to acknowledge the economic and diplomatic tensions between the United States and Canada, particularly under the Trump administration. The introduction of tariffs on Canadian goods, along with remarks about Canada becoming the 51st state, have been points of contention that played a significant role in shaping the narrative of the Canadian election. Mark Carney, known for his experience as a banker and his tenure as the Governor of the Bank of England, positioned himself as a candidate who could navigate these complex international waters effectively. His campaign focused on unity and the need for Canada to stand strong against external pressures, emphasizing the country's unique position in the global economy and its ability to diversify trade partnerships beyond the United States. The election was marked by debates over how best to handle the Trump administration, with Carney arguing that his background in finance and international relations made him uniquely qualified to negotiate with the U.S. on trade and other matters. This message resonated with Canadian voters, who are keenly aware of the impact of U.S. policies on their economy and daily lives. It's also worth noting that the campaign saw discussions about deepening ties with other like-minded countries, such as the United Kingdom, potentially leading to new trade agreements and defense partnerships. The upcoming G7 summit, which Canada is set to host, will be a crucial moment for these discussions, especially as the world navigates the challenges of the global trade war. As Carney begins his tenure, he faces the daunting task of balancing Canada's relationship with its largest trading partner, the United States, while also pursuing diversification and strengthening alliances with other nations. The path ahead will be challenging, requiring careful diplomacy and strategic economic planning. In conclusion, the Canadian election serves as a reminder of the interconnected nature of global politics and economies. As we watch how Prime Minister Carney navigates these waters, It will be fascinating to see the implications not just for Canada, but for international relations at large. Stay tuned for our final story of the day, right here on Concrete Block. Welcome back to Concrete Block. We're wrapping up today's show with a thought-provoking story that's been making headlines around the world. As we've been exploring the complexities of global politics and energy trade, one question keeps popping up. Why can't Europe do business with Iran? To answer this, let's dive into the intricacies of sanctions, nuclear diplomacy, and geopolitics. As we've discussed earlier in the show, Iran is one of the most heavily sanctioned countries in the world. The European Union, bound by its own sanctions and US-led restrictions, has been hesitant to engage with Tehran's energy sector. However, this hasn't stopped other countries like China and Malaysia from buying Iranian oil and alum. Now, some might argue that Europe's reluctance to trade with Iran is due to concerns over the country's human rights record and support for certain militant groups. Others might say that it's simply a matter of geopolitics, with the EU not wanting to upset its transatlantic ally, the United States. But here's the thing. If Europe can do business with countries like Russia, Libya, and Qatar, despite their own set of controversies, why can't it be pragmatic about Iran? Is it a matter of double standards, or are there more complex factors at play? Experts weigh in on this issue, citing the 2015 nuclear agreement, known as the Joint Comprehensive Plan of Action, which saw Iran agree to limit its nuclear activities in exchange for sanctions relief. Although the US withdrew from the deal in 2018, reimposing sanctions and crippling Iran's economy, some believe that a renewed effort at diplomacy could still offer a way forward. However, with the current state of US-Iran relations and the ongoing nuclear talks, it's unclear whether we'll see any significant breakthroughs. The EU, deeply tied to the transatlantic alliance, might be hesitant to chart its own course, even if it means potentially missing out on a lucrative energy deal. As we conclude this segment, it's essential to acknowledge that there are no easy answers here. The situation is complex, multifaceted, and influenced by a range of factors. What's clear, though, is that the global energy landscape is constantly evolving, and countries must navigate these complexities to secure their interests. That's all for today's Concrete Block. Remember to like, share, and subscribe. And until next time, stay informed.